Broken Rail roller coaster's Suzhou Amusement Land Forest World is the most surprising roller coaster I've experienced thus far in China. This is a tilt coaster. I have been affectionately calling this ride Jinma's Curse, since it has some similarity to Cedar Point's very own tilt coaster and Siren's Curse. In this video, I will explain what makes this coaster so good, and why I really hope that Jinma continues to build more like it. This park originally opened around 2003 as Suzhou Amusement Land. The park closed after the 2017 season and relocated 5 miles northwest. It reopened in 2020 bigger and better than ever as Suzhou Amusement Land Forest World. The park originally reopened with just 2 roller coasters. One of them was the subject of this video, the Broken Rail roller coaster. Vekoma debuted the tilt coaster in 2002 with Gravity Max at Discovery World. This was the Dutch manufacturer's answer to the Bolliger Mabillard dive coaster. With the tilt coaster, the train moved on a piece of track that would rotate from the horizontal position to the vertical or near vertical position. This maneuver was designed to go viral. It took a while for tilt coasters to catch on. I'm really not sure why. Vekoma would not build their next full-scale tilt coaster until 2025 when they opened the aforementioned Siren's Curse. That same year, they also opened Circuit Breaker at Codaland and Iron Rattler at Six Flags Qiddiya. And this year, they are building a clone of Siren's Curse in Vietnam named Tilt of Thunder. Jinma Rides has also been building tilt coasters over the past decade. They call this model the Broken Rail Coaster. They started with Battle of Jungle King at Hefei Sunac Land in 2016. This is the only dueling tilt coaster to date. While visually stunning, I have heard this ride is brutally rough. Jinma's other 3 tilt coasters have been the KSC 24B layout. They opened the Broken Rail roller coaster at Great Shingdong Tourist World in 2018, but this park closed in 2019 and has not reopened. They also opened the tilt track coaster at Wowstock Happy Island in 2023. And then there's the subject of this video, the Broken Rail roller coaster Suzhou Amusement Land Forest World. This ride is located to the left of the main entrance, and it makes quite the first impression. From the entry plaza, you can catch the tilt track from behind. It looks unnatural, seeing a piece of track tilt vertically, but the views get even better from the midway in front of the coaster. The tilt track is an absolute spectacle. Most guests have never seen an element quite like it. I do think the tilt tracks in the Vekoma installations look more imposing though. Those rides feature vertical or near vertical drops. Jinma's tilt coasters have drops that are considerably shallower. They are more like in the 60 to 70 degree range, and they only hit that max angle briefly before leveling off. For reference, that has a more comparable angle to the B&M Hypers. The Broken Rail roller coaster could also use a repaint. The paint scheme itself is fine. The red track and blue supports remind me of the Superman coasters in the United States. But the paint has already become faded, which is really surprising for a coaster that is just 6 years old. The coaster is mostly unthemed, but it does have a rocky tunnel after the first drop that looks nice. The queue line does not have anything to look at either, but it does have benches. This will be appreciated if you get stuck in a long queue, because this ride has some of the slowest dispatches I've seen anywhere. I visited on a quiet day, so it was never more than a 1 cycle wait. But I've heard of some people having a queue in excess of an hour. If you do visit on a busy day, the park does offer a skip the line pass. This appears to route you directly to the station, allowing you to board the next train. I did not look into how much it cost though because it was wildly unnecessary the day I visited. This coaster has 2 trains, but was using just 1 during my visit. That seems to be the case in every other trip report I've seen as well. Each train holds a decent number of guests at least. They are comprised of 6 cars with 2 rows of 2, so you can seat up to 24 riders. This rides separate load and unload platforms. This helps the ride's capacity if they run multiple trains, but it dramatically slows everything down if the ride is just on 1 train, which again is typically the case here. After the prior train parks in the unload platform, staff members wait for everyone to vacate the platform. Then, and only then, they will advance the train to the load platform. At that point, they will start admitting guests into the station. If you have any loose articles, you must walk over to the unload platform to place them there. Then you return to the load platform to select your seat. Since seating is on a first-come basis, it is advantageous to have no loose articles. That way, you can go directly to picking your seat. If you are in a group, give one person all the bags and loose articles, then have everyone else choose the seats. After the initial seat selection process, staff members may have to move people around if there are some groups that got split up. And if they couldn't move people around, in some instances, a group would have to go back to the unload platform to get their belongings and re-enter the queue to wait for the next train. Then another party would be pulled, have to go over to the unload platform and put their belongings there, then go to their row, which again slows everything down. Once all the rows are finally filled, riders will be admitted onto the train. You then have a cumbersome restraint check. The restraints look similar to the B&M vest restraints. There's a thick bar around your pelvis and a soft vest around your torso. On the B&M versions, the vest component is stretchy. On the older versions, it would lock in place automatically with no give. On Broken Rail Roller Coaster, the operators must individually tighten the vest from behind with a crank. These vests will then tighten as the ride progresses, similar to the early B&M wing coasters. My recommendation is to hold the vest forwards after your restraint is checked. This will prevent it from tightening any further. Otherwise, you can get quite a bit of pressure on your collarbones. This is the same method I use in the B&M wing coasters. Then the operators also need to check the harness itself. This is very problematic for larger guests. This is the most restrictive large-scale coaster I've encountered thus far in China. The locked position is roughly one notch lower than a standard B&M vest restraint. If you have larger thighs, you will have difficulty getting the restraint down. If you think you'll have trouble fitting, try the back row of a car. In these rows, you have enough space to lay your legs flat. This will help you get the harness down further because there's a better chance of clearing your thighs. In the front row of a car, there's a raised metal ridge, so you need to keep your legs bent. We saw a few riders fail to fit. When this happens, the operators will give guests 2 free scoops of ice cream, since the exit goes through an ice cream shop. Yes, you heard that right. If you're too fat to fit, they will give you a fatty food as a consolation prize. It was kind of funny. Ultimately, I imagine these restraints are a vast improvement over the original ones. This safety video still shows the old ones. This coaster first opened with hard over-the-shoulder restraints. These look similar to the ones found in older B&M loopers. I imagine this could have caused quite a bit of headbanging. As long as you prevent the vest from continuously tightening during the ride, the current restraints are great. As with all vest restraints, these prevent any headbanging, but in general, I actually found this coaster quite smooth. There was a little shuffling on the transitions, but it rode much better than most modern B&Ms. In terms of seat selection, I much preferred the back row. Because of how the tilt track works, the rear rows are pulled upwards. This means you get a longer drop. In the front rows, you are pulled downwards. It's a freaky visual, but I personally will take the longer drop. 3 additional touring notes. 1. This ride may have different hours than the park itself. The exact hours can be found in the park's WeChat mini program, or by the ride's entrance. In general, this coaster tends to close a few hours before the park does. On the day we visited, it closed 3 hours before the park did, which was definitely annoying. 2. This coaster will not operate in any precipitation. This is common with a lot of coasters in China, so be careful visiting this park on a rainy day. This ride will close in the lightest of mistings, but the park will reopen the coaster as soon as the rain stops at least. And you can see the live operational status daily in the park's WeChat mini program. 3. Glasses cannot be worn in this attraction, even with a strap. That is pretty typical of most coasters in Asia, unfortunately. Once dispatched, you round a corner. You pass through a cutout in the aforementioned rock tunnel, which honestly looks a bit awkward. You then ascend the lift hill. It is a rather swift chain lift. I have seen max heights for this ride around 130 feet or 40 meters. It is unclear if that is the top of the lift hill, or the max height the tilt track reaches, but I would assume it's the latter. I am guessing you want to report the highest possible figure to make your ride sound as exciting as possible. Once at the top, you slowly round a corner, getting a great view overlooking the park. Then you roll forwards onto the tilt track. This is bound to make your palms sweaty. This mechanism is far slower than the ones on the Vekoma installations. You roll forwards towards the end of the tilt track. There, you pause for quite some time. Then you roll forwards a second time, banging into a metal wedge. This is a very noticeable bump, but not uncomfortable. Honestly, it adds to the sketchiness in my opinion. You then begin tilting. The slowness feeds into the visual, since you spend more time disconnected from the track than on the Vekoma versions. This ride's a perfect safety record and redundancies in place, but this ride still plays tricks with your head. This is particularly terrifying in the front as you flex downwards with nothing in front of you. In back, you are rotated upwards, reaching the ride's max height. Once you connect to the drop, you are held for roughly 10 seconds. This builds additional suspense. If you're in the back row of a car, it feels like you're standing at this point. Remember how I said you could lay your legs flat? Since there's nothing in front of your feet to brace yourself, you will slide all the way forwards, so that vest restraint is going to bear your full weight. The metal wedge lowers, and a few seconds later, you drop. Even though the drop is not vertical, you still get a freefall sensation from the sudden release. That is particularly true if you're in the back row of a car, since again, it feels like you're standing. This element really shines in the back cars because you experience the full length of the drop. The sensation is much briefer in the front view rows. The only other tilt coaster I've experienced thus far is Siren's Curse. I thought the freefall sensation was a bit stronger on that one due to the steeper angle, but Suzhou's has the advantage of staying straight for the entire drop. You plunge into that rocky tunnel, hitting your max speed of 55 miles per hour or 89 kilometers per hour. You then pull upwards into a sidewinder. This offers great positive Gs in front as you are pushed into the element. They are a bit weaker in the rear rows, but still very good. But as a consolation, that row gets some sweet whip as you are pulled through the flip. Next is a Cobra roll. The entry and exit offer extreme positive Gs, so much so that I typically was graying out. Then the flips themselves offer some whip in the rear rows. That is particularly true in the second flip as you're yanked downwards. Cobra rolls can be very hit or miss for me. Sometimes they are far too gradual. This is especially the case if they are flared outwards, as seen on Beyond the Cloud in the same park. That is the better overall ride, but the Broken Rail roller coaster does the Cobra roll way better. It is tight and compact, so it is very forceful. This leads to a giant helix. It is roughly 670 degrees. The first 270 degrees are relatively mild, as you are spiraling upwards, but the rest of the helix is quite intense. You curve towards the ground, getting strong positive Gs. This is particularly true in the rear rows, as the Gs feel more sustained there. You then have back-to-back inversions. RCDB classifies the first as a corkscrew, and the second as an inline twist, but practically, both of them feel like barrel rolls. That corkscrew is wider, it offers okay hang time in the front. In back, you get great hang time as the train takes its sweet time to complete it. Then that inline twist offers great hang time for all. There is a big jolt at the apex though. Fortunately, you will not hit your head on anything. It just surprises you after the rest of the layout that is pretty darn smooth. This would have been brutal with those older over-the-shoulder restraints, so I'm glad they switched them out. You then have a mild spiral into the brakes. The turn is slightly underbanked, so you'll get some weak laterals in the front. It doesn't do much elsewhere. You then come to a dead stop on the brakes. After a few seconds, you very slowly return to the unload platform. This slow return is another reason why this coaster's throughput is so poor. You then disembark, ending the 2,539 foot or 774 meter long experience. Overall, this coaster is a good duration, especially since that tilt track takes so long, and there are plenty of elements after the tilt as well, unlike Vekoma's original tilt coaster. I touched on the smoothness, but what about the pacing? I really like this ride's pacing. Once you're released, it is an action-packed layout. You have 5 exciting inversions, plus that strong helix. I was not expecting every element to hit like it did. What would I rate the Broken Rail roller coaster? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. This is a great ride. I was not expecting it like this as much as I did. The tilt mechanism is exciting, both in terms of the suspense and sensation. Then the layout packs in 5 strong inversions. The mix of positive G's and hang time is lovely, and this ride tracked way better than anticipated. It genuinely was a smooth ride. If this is how the newer Jinma coasters ride, I really cannot wait to try more. The biggest con with this ride is the putrid capacity due to the station setup and that restraint check process, so hopefully you visit on a quieter day like myself. The only con with this layout is that it does not offer any negative Gs. The newer layouts from Vekoma have shined in this department, but if you want airtime, at least this park is beyond the cloud just down the midway. Those are my thoughts on the Broken Rail roller coaster Suzhou Amusement Land Forest World. What are your thoughts on this roller coaster? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.